8 persons die in Katsina community gas explosion. State Security Services questions Shore on alleged links to Boko Haram, IPOB. In international news, US and China agree on text of Phase 1 trade deal. And in sport, NFF officials to appear before EFCC over alleged corruption scandal.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. 8 members of a family, 3 women and 5 children have been confirmed dead in a gas explosion in Katsina State on Saturday evening. A gas cylinder was said to have exploded while one of the victims was cooking. Katsina State Police Command spokesman Isha Gambo confirmed the victims were burnt beyond recognition. The remains of the victims have been buried. State Security Services officials have been questioning Sahara Reporters publisher Omoyele Sowore on his alleged relationship and connection with sponsors and leaders of terrorist sect Boko Haram, Shiites and IPOB. Sowore has continued to deny any link to any of the outlawed groups. The SSS accused Sowore of terrorism and treason, among other claims, for using the word revolution while rallying Nigerians ahead of the protests scheduled to take off across 21 Nigerian towns and cities last August. Meanwhile, the Muslim rights concern Murik is appealing for calm between the security apparatus and Omoyele Sowore. Murik's director, Professor Ishaka Kitola, says, quote, "It is improper for a man who lost an election to lead a revolution against the winner of that same election just a few months later. But dialogue is the way to resolve the impasse," end quote. Sowore had contested in the 2019 presidential election on the platform of the African Action Alliance. The Federal High Court in Abuja has given a go-ahead to the SocioEconomic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) to pursue its investigation into how the federal government spent the $460 million loan it obtained in 2010 from China to fund the controversial Abuja CCTV project. Justice Awuri Chikere cleared the way for SERAP to advance its case to compel Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed to disclose details of payments of the loan to contractors and whether $1.5 billion paid in 2010 for the failed contract to construct the headquarters of the Code of Conduct Bureau was part of another Chinese loan. She granted the order following the arguments in court on an ex parte motion by SERAP's counsel. The suit is adjourned till February. Acting Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, has declared total war on corrupt individuals. Magu said the fight against corruption and corrupt individuals would be more intense in 2020. The acting chairman spoke at the end of the year get-together at the Ibadan Zonal Commissioner's office. Magu charged officers of the commission to gear up for more challenges and expect more responsibilities irrespective of the time of day. Turkish Airlines has promised an immediate action to fly back to Nigeria all leftover passengers' baggage in Turkey. This is in response to the suspension of its operations in Nigeria. Public Affairs General Manager of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Sam Adurogboye, says the airline's management have met with NCAA management to resolve the leftover baggage issue. The airline says the program of clearance kicked off last Thursday and would end on Tuesday. Adurogboye warned all operators to ensure Nigerians were not taken for granted. He admonished them to provide safe, secure and efficient service at all times. NCAA said the suspension would remain until the airline was ready to operate flights into the country with the right aircraft size that would bring passengers into the country along with their checked-in baggage. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says the government is ready to accept bids from prospective firms interested in the construction of the 4th Mainland Bridge. He said the state will also complete and test run the Blue Rail Line project in 12 months as part of its commitment to providing intermodal transportation for residents. The bids will officially set process in motion to realize the project.
Coming up, African stories. Kenya launches largest solar-powered plant in Eastern and Central Africa. And later, international news. US and China agree on text of Phase 1 trade deal.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. The peace process in South Sudan has held up even if precariously over the past 5 years. Now, the South Sudan government says it can see progress towards resolving key issues that have dragged down the process over the years. Patrick Oyet reports.
South Sudan's government says the discussion between President Salva Kiir and designated Vice President Riek Machar on Friday focused on speeding up security sector reforms.
There is the issue of supplies, which have also been agreement reached that food, medicine and fuel need to be purchased quickly in order for these mechanisms to be able to do their job.
The government says the East African Regional Body, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development or IGAD, is ready to start joint training of government and opposition armed forces. It is planned that after the training, the joint forces would be deployed in places such as Juba to provide security to pave the way for formation of a unity government. Opposition group led by Riek Machar says there is renewed energy in the peace process.
We all know there are situations here and there that has to be overcome. And I believe by working together, discussing and meeting, we will be able to overcome those challenges.
Cameroon President Paul Biyas thought he had come up with a great solution idea to the country's separatist problem when he proposed special status for the English-speaking regions. He thought that would solve the crisis that had claimed more than 3,000 lives. But the parliament is divided over the proposal. At the extraordinary session of parliament convened by the president, some lawmakers suggested that only the creation of federal states, one incorporating the English-speaking regions and the other made up of the French-speaking regions, can stop the crisis. Other lawmakers held that by virtue of the region's special status, enough power and resources had already been ceded to the crisis-prone areas where separatists are fighting to create an English-speaking state. MP representing English-speaking Southwest, Njume Peter Ambang, said the section of the bill granting special status to those regions could calm rising tensions and help peace to return to the area. The bill aims to create assemblies of chiefs, regional councils and regional assemblies for the English-speaking Northwest and Southwest regions. It would also provide for each of the two regions to have elected presidents, vice presidents, secretaries, public affairs management controllers, and 3 commissioners responsible for economic, health, socio-education, sports, and cultural development affairs. Another lawmaker from the English-speaking Northwest disagreed. He said all of this would not stop the crisis. Henry Commander said most English speakers want the creation of a federal state that recognizes the people's cultural and linguistic diversity. He called for 2 states, one for each French and English speakers in the Federal Republic. Separatist leaders boycotted the national dialogue, calling it a non-event. Kenya has launched what has been described as East and Central Africa's largest solar power plant, putting Kenya on the path of achieving green energy sufficiency. Kenya is already running one of the largest wind farms on the continent.
The launch of the largest solar power plant in East and Central Africa. Located in Garissa County, about 350 kilometers from Nairobi, the plant has an installed capacity of 50 megawatts and took the contractor China Jiangxi Corporation just 15 months to complete. Kenya's president says the plant is part of his administration's push for cleaner energy in the power sector.
This is just the beginning. According to our plans, in a few years, we intend to have 400 megawatts powered by solar power.
The project, financed by Exim Bank of China at a cost of $124 million, will provide half of the energy needs for the town of Garissa.
It can be supplied to the about 70,000 households with 355,000 people. It's covered about 50% of the east and county of Garissa and powered to the national grid.
Built on about 80 hectares of land, the new plant is a boost to the East African country's push to become less reliant on diesel-powered plants and more on green energy. At least 50% of the country's power needs are generated from hydropower. In July this year, the country launched Africa's largest wind-powered farm in Turkana, generating about 310 megawatts of power.
Zimbabwe has many problems it would like to resolve with its medical, education and other sectors. Now, a new problem that could affect climate change is threatening the country. Reporter Faraya Nwakutuye explains.
At first glance, it looks like a well-covered forest, but a closer inspection will show several stumps, evidence of its systematic stripping. There used to be many tall trees around, but they are all gone because of charcoal traders. Obed Madovi, a Mondorongezi villager, tells me.
The indigenous Mopani tree is the main target for charcoal producers. They like it because of its strength. It's so tough, it would take several hours to try and chop it down using an axe, and so that's why they prefer to burn it to the ground.
From here, it's taken to markets in the cities where traders are cashing in on demand, driven by rolling power cuts of up to 18 hours a day.
People prefer charcoal because it's cheaper than other sources of energy, and since we are now in the rainy season, you can cook with it indoors unlike firewood.
For him, environmental impact is peripheral.
I am not sure where the charcoal comes from or how it is sourced, but I need to make a living, so that's why I sell it.
But his trade is fueling a time bomb.
You know, we have got a deforestation rate of approximately 330,000 hectares loss of forest cover in Zimbabwe annually. About 40% of that could be attributable to cutting down of trees for fueled energy.
Fines for trading charcoal and other forest products range from 60 Zimbabwe dollars to 700. Paltry amounts compared to the huge returns traders are making. And so authorities here are adopting a different approach.
The other way that we have dealt with that is actually taking people to court. And taking someone to court, they will be, if convicted, they are likely to spend up to 2 years in jail. And we think that route could also deter would-be criminals in this regard.
Hopefully, that will save some of the country's rapidly disappearing indigenous forest trees, some of which would need another lifetime to regenerate.
When we return, international news. US and China agree on text of Phase 1 trade deal. And later, sport. NFF officials to appear before EFCC over alleged corruption scandal.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. Now to international stories. China has announced a Phase 1 trade deal with the United States, signified a breakthrough in a long-running trade dispute between the two countries. There are some key terms addressed in this Phase 1 deal.
It is a breakthrough deal that is heavily invested in hope and potential. Both China and the United States agree this first phase is critically important and could set the tone moving forward in what has been a lengthy and tense standoff.
China and the U.S., both sides have agreed on the text of a Phase 1 economic and trade agreement based on the principle of equality and mutual respect.
The written agreement has yet to be translated and made public. China and the United States both say this first phase is a good start, and both sides are getting some of what they want. U.S. farmers have been especially hard hit by tariffs in this ongoing trade war. China says it is agreeing to buy more agricultural products, such as soybeans. China's economy has suffered at Trump's punishing tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars in goods. The U.S. says it will maintain a 25% tariff on some $250 billion in Chinese-made products. But under this agreement, it will reduce tariffs from 15% to 7.5% on $120 billion in items.
Both sides have reached consensus that the U.S. side will fulfill its commitments to phase out its additional tariffs on Chinese products, so as to achieve a switch from hiking to cutting additional tariffs.
China says this partial agreement also includes a number of issues the U.S. has pushed to change, including intellectual property rights, technology transfers, financial services, and exchange rates. But the details remain unknown. The 9-chapter agreement has yet to be made public.
Meanwhile, China's Customs Tariffs Commission has announced the suspension of the planned additional tariff on some U.S. products. Those tariffs would have kicked in on Sunday.
Beijing has suspended plans to impose additional tariffs on some U.S. imports, which were due to take effect on Sunday. The Chinese government will also extend its earlier suspension of additional tariffs on U.S. cars and auto parts. This comes 2 days after Washington and Beijing announced a major step forward in their 21-month trade war. It follows President Trump's cancellation of new tariffs on Chinese products as part of that Phase 1 deal. It's unspecified how long the tariffs will be suspended for. However, China will continue to implement its tariffs on other U.S. goods. The two sides have yet to sign the agreement, but the U.S. Trade Representative says Beijing has committed to buying more farm products over the next 2 years.
Republican President Donald Trump could become this week the third ever U.S. president to be impeached. House of Representatives led by Democrats will vote on charges stemming from his efforts to pressure Ukraine to investigate political rival former Vice President Joe Biden. President Trump faces one charge of abusing his power when he asked Ukraine to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden, a leading Democratic contender to run against him in next year's U.S. presidential election. He also faces a second charge of obstruction of Congress by refusing to release any documents to Congress. He also gagged all White House officials, past and present, from honoring any congressional subpoenas to testify. Trump says he has done nothing wrong. He calls the impeachment process a hoax and a sham. Welcome back. This is CNN News. Now to sport. Top officials of the Nigeria Football Federation will appear before the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to answer to matters of embezzlement and corruption. EFCC operatives have submitted a letter on Friday inviting NFF President Amaju Pinnick and several top officials for questioning over alleged corruption charges. The NFF has requested the interview to be rescheduled for January, so they will attend the annual general meeting in Benin City next week and also visit their offices and those of their sponsors this week to show appreciation for their support this year. The Tigers head coach Otis Hughley has called up Captain Adara Elonu, Evelyn Nakato and 12 others for the final phase of the 2020 Olympics qualification tournament scheduled for February. Nigeria is drawn alongside hosts Serbia, world champions USA and Mozambique with 2 Olympic tickets on offer.